Man, I'll tell you what, it's a gutsy performance week in and week out from this crew. There's never any quit, and we just keep battling and fighting, and we find freaking ways. And we still haven't played our best ball. We still haven't. But guess what? We have an opportunity next week to do that against a division opponent. All right? So we got to get our preparation. We got to get our minds right to go down to Houston and get a division win. All right? All right? Perfection isn't obtainable. It's not. But if you chase perfection, you can catch excellence. All right? So that's what we got to keep doing, man. Keep going for it. Keep stacking them. Hey, that's the fourth win, man. Now we got to go get number 5.
Hey, good work, fellas. Good team win. Make sure you take care of your body and get ready for this next one. Coach on me. Coach on 3. 1, 2, 3. Go!
You're listening to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast with Mike Chappell and Dave Griffiths.
Hello and welcome to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast. I'm Matt Adams here with a game recap of the Colts' 16-10 win over the Miami Dolphins at Lucas Oil Stadium. And boy, it was not the prettiest game on the face of the earth there. As Coach Steichen said in his post, we'll hear from him in just a little bit, they have not played their best game yet. And, they got a couple ugly wins the last couple of weeks. But on the plus side of it, the Colts are 4-3. Thanks to a loss by the Houston Texans against the Green Bay Packers on Sunday. When they play the Texans on the road this weekend, that will be for the division lead. This will pretty much determine how the division goes. There's still a lot of football left, but it'll give us a good indication because if the Colts lose, then Houston effectively has a 3-game lead on the Colts in the division. If the Colts split with them, then it's a whole new ball game. But that's looking way, way ahead. No doubt this one was ugly. Coach Steichen in his victory speech that you heard there says, basically we're not perfect. No one's going to ever play a perfect game. But if you chase perfection, you can catch excellence. This week, the Colts didn't chase perfection. They didn't catch excellence, but they did get the win. So, again, 4-3 is your record for the Indianapolis Colts. It puts them in second place in the division. Just like I said, just not a pretty game to watch. Colts had 284 total yards on offense. The Dolphins had 337 total yards. We had snaps being fumbled in key red zone situations by Anthony Richardson that stopped the Colts from scoring some points in a time when points were premium. But on the other hand, the Colts forced a pair of turnovers. One that led to their first touchdown that tied things up, and then a second one in the red zone when the game was tied that allowed the Colts to prevent the Dolphins from getting points. So, you had some good things, you had some bad things, you had some things fall your way. The Colts got another break when the Dolphins missed what would have been a game-tying field goal, and that one doinked off the upright. And, that would have been a big thing for the Dolphins, but the Colts were able to, they didn't do anything to stop it necessarily, but the ball bounced their way at that particular point. And, that's kind of the way things go with this team. And I'll talk a little bit, and we will definitely, Dave and Mike and I will talk about, the Joe Flacco, Anthony Richardson of it all later. You would sort of like to step into the alternate universe where the Colts started Flacco this week just to see what happened in that game. Did the Colts win? Did they win ugly? Did the offense look better? Or did the plays that Anthony Richardson can make with his legs make the difference in this game and get them the win? And these are things that we will debate eternally over the course of the season, especially when the offense is so inefficient in the first half of this game especially. It picked up a little bit in the second half. It still wasn't great, but at least we were throwing up some passes that were getting caught in the second half, whereas in that first half, it was just ugliness, throwing and forcing some throws, that sort of thing. And we have seen these things from this young quarterback as, and the thing is, he wasn't even really able to hit the deep ball in this game, and that's what you expect him to do, is to at least, you can't hit this little 10-yard dig route that would have picked up a first down on a third down play. But, you made up for it by getting the ball down, 40 yards to Alec Pierce or what have you, and not even really able to do that this week against the Miami Dolphins. But, to his credit, Richardson did make some plays, wiggled and powered his way out of some sacks this week where it really looked like he was dead to rights. But then, he makes mistakes. And that fumbled snap was a key mistake there. I don't know if it was maybe a little bit low or a little to the side than he wasn't expecting it, but you've got to keep your eyes on that ball, and you've got to catch that snap, and you certainly cannot let the other team recover the ball there in the red zone. And that was a key moment in the game for the Colts. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about Anthony Richardson. We'll hear from him. We'll hear his post-game comments, as we often do in our game recap show. Some key plays and some key players. Grant Stewart finished this game with 18 tackles for the Colts. According to Colts.com, his previous career high in a game was 2. And Stewart was starting this week because E.J. Speed was a late scratch for the Colts, ended up on the injury list late, I think, and then was not able to play this week. And Stewart is primarily a special teams guy, right up there with Ashton Doolin on just being a tough guy that's on special teams. And my wife was watching the game with me this week, which isn't necessarily always the case, and she was like, "Who's the guy with the hair?" Because that's the one thing that really sticks out about Grant Stewart is, you could look at the jersey numbers and you can kind of tell who somebody is by the way they move and that sort of thing. But Stewart's hair, very distinctive out there. So when he's in a play because that hair is just, flying behind him. Very distinctive. But wow, what a big performance by him. You knew that the Dolphins were limited here. They had Tyler Huntley as their quarterback. Tim Boyle was their backup. So you knew that, it was going to be a heavy dose of Devon Archan and Raheem Mostert and that sort of thing. And really, the Dolphins were able to run the ball effectively and consistently, but, much like the Colts, they just lacked any big playability. And that's a hard way to live your life, to run that ball, because things have to go so right for you. You have to sustain drives. You have to pick up the 3rd and 3s on the ground or the 3rd and 4s on the ground. And, when you have a couple of turnovers, which the Dolphins did, they had 2 fumbles. Then, one was forced by Shagun Olubi, who then picked up the ball and kind of had this fun little stutter step around return for several yards, and that set up the Colts' game-tying touchdown in the second half there. And then you had another one in the red zone where Grant Stewart and Zaire Franklin, it looked like Franklin punched the ball away, and that one got recovered by Taven Bryan. So when you live that way and you rely on that run game and you make mistakes, then it's very hard to pick yourself back up. And even though they've got great receivers in Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, right now the Dolphins don't have the guy to get them the ball. And so, that favored the Colts this week. Last week they got to play against Will Levis, who was bad for the Titans. This week they got to play against the combo of Tyler Huntley, who they knocked out of the game, and Tim Boyle. And there's just not much punch there. Really, the only bright spot for the Dolphins was Jonnu Smith. 7 passes caught for 96 yards. He had a touchdown, and that was a deflating touchdown for the Colts. They had gotten a sack from Jalen Carlisle on the previous play to push the Dolphins back, and then they hit Jonnu Smith for a little screen, and the Colts, just couldn't get off some blocks and dove at his feet, couldn't quite get him down, and he got into the end zone on what really you would hope to be would have held Miami to a field goal there. Reminded me a lot, not the same play, not quite the same situation, but it reminded me a lot of that 3rd and 19 run for a touchdown last week from the Titans. So, good things, bad things, but they were playing a not-so-great Miami team, but it's still hard to win in this league, in the NFL. And the bottom line is the Colts came out on top in this one. And to start this season 0-2, and then right now as we approach the midway part of the year, we're at 4-3. The Colts are at 4-3. And they have a chance. I'm not saying it's a probable chance, but they have a chance next week at Houston to really make a statement as to how they want this division to go. And they need to get some guys back. That offense, my goodness. Tyler Goodson had a nice little game. Trey Sermon. I was pretty critical of Trey Sermon last week because it felt like he got the ball, did a little hop step, and then got dropped at the line of scrimmage or behind it. And this week, they kind of featured Goodson a little bit more. He got a little bit of burst. I think he had a 19-yard run at one point. Didn't have an overwhelming great average yards per carry. I think it was just 3.6 for him. But Sermon, late in the game, you kind of see maybe what the Colts were thinking with Sermon a little bit. But you've got to let the other team get worn down a little bit before Sermon, who runs very physically, can be a factor. Because when they need a couple of big runs, or steady runs, I guess I should say, because he's not really outrunning a lot of people. When they need a couple steady runs, tough runs, they gave that ball to Sermon, and he came through this week on that last drive especially. So he had 8 carries for 36 yards in that Colts last drive. Had one where it looked like he was going to be dropped for a 2-yard loss, broke the tackle, and got 11 yards out of it. So kudos to, some critical situation run game. Trey Sermon coming through there for the Colts. Another key for Indy this week, we finally, a couple of them were close field goals. They weren't particularly challenging, but they did get 3 field goals from Matt Gay, including what I think really turned the game. A couple key moments turned this game. One was the fumble by the Dolphins near midfield that I mentioned that Segun Olumbi had forced and recovered. And then before that, it was really that field goal before halftime. Colts got the ball back with very little time left after a Miami Dolphins possession. And, they had their timeouts, and, if they could hit a couple of big plays, then maybe they could get in field goal range. And boy, it really looked like Richardson had Alec Pierce on the left sideline for a nice kind of toe tap catch, but Pierce couldn't quite corral it. And so you're thinking, boy, that's really looking bad now. Maybe they should just, kneel the ball or run out the clock. Instead, they give it to Richardson, put it in his hands again. He rips one over the middle. Just a tremendous throw to Michael Pittman Jr. And you're just like, why can't we do this on a little 5-yard in route and pick up a first down? Because that throw was just, it was just a rope. And there's a lot of room. Pittman did a good job getting open, that sort of thing. And that set up a field goal attempt, 52 yards from Matt Gay. So this game that was 10-0 becomes a 10-3 game before halftime. I felt like that got the Colts going a little bit, got Richardson a little bit of confidence. Then the defense comes out in the second half. They get the turnover, and then it's a tie ball game, and we've got a whole new football game after that. So Matt Gay getting into things this week with the 3 field goals, and they needed every single one of those. Would have liked to have seen the Colts get a late game touchdown, because that would have put things away for definitively in this game. But the Dolphins did get the ball back with a chance to go ahead if they scored the touchdown and the extra point. But let's face it, their quarterback was Tim Boyle, and the Colts let them just have whatever they wanted up the middle of the field because the clock was their friend. And Miami didn't have any timeouts at that point. The Colts forced them to Steichen gamed the Dolphins in this game. Looked like maybe they might go for it on when they ended up going for a field goal, and came out in a formation where they split out some of their special teams players, and that forced Miami to burn a timeout. And that was a savvy move because Miami really needed that timeout, and they had to burn it up because they were afraid, of a personnel mix-up, that sort of thing that the Colts could take advantage of. But overall, like I said, 16-10, not an overwhelming show of force by the Colts this year. I think every game they've played this season has been one score. So if you're trying to figure out how the Colts are doing in one-score games this year, all you have to do is look at their record. 4-3, wildly inconsistent offense. And Coach Shane Steichen said some of that blame goes back to him. Let's hear from the coach right now.
Start off with injuries. Carly's had an ankle. That's the only one I got for you guys right now. But gutsy team win. Found a way. Defense stepped up big time. But again, found a way. 16 points. Obviously, we want to be better. It starts with myself offensively. But defense stepped up, and it's good momentum, obviously, heading into Houston next week.
What do you think went wrong offensively in terms of getting going?
We just didn't get in a rhythm. Like I said, I didn't do a good enough job for these guys today. It was all me. I didn't do a good enough job offensively. I got to do better for these guys going forward.
How do you assess the way Anthony performed, and why do you think it's so stagnant, especially in the first half?
Oh, like I said, I got to do better. I got to put them in better positions. I mean, you go back, I'm going to watch the tape, but there wasn't a lot of stuff open, to be honest, when I was out there watching it. So that's on me. I got to be better.
Was there something that was unforeseen defensively from them that maybe
they do a good job mixing it up with their fronts and their coverages and their Rolodex and stuff, and credit to them. They did a really good job, but like I said, I got to be better for our offense.
Did it feel like they did a good job with their blitz packages just in terms of creating pressure even if they didn't necessarily get home?
Yeah, they did. They did a good job. Like I said, give them credit, but I got to be better.
in the second half, it seemed like you kind of leaned into Anthony as a runner. I don't know if those were some of his calls or not, but how much of a difference did that make in the outcome, do you think?
It was huge. You know, we got the turnover, and then we hit the QB draw there to get down in there, and then we hit the speed sweep to Ashton, and then Goodson found a way in on the inside zone. So that part was good, and at the end, running the football was good. Obviously, we want to finish with touchdowns down there. Obviously, we didn't convert on that 3rd and goal at the 4. But overall, again, I mean, shoot, we got to be better. I got to be better. But we found a way to win the game, and that's what matters. So there's room to grow. That's the good sign, is that we haven't played our best ball yet. You know, we haven't put the whole complete package together. But again, like I said, into October, we got to start hitting our strides here coming up.
How much does Shane, that Grant Stewart game, it's hard to imagine what we just watched, really.
Yeah, it's great. Shout out to him. Obviously going and having EJ down this game, he stepped up big time. Shea Goose stepped up, but he made a whole bunch of plays. I don't know how many tackles he ended up with, but he's a guy that just shows up every day to work and works his tail off, and he got his opportunity today and made the most of it, so it was awesome to see him.
Wadley and Hill had, I think, 2 catches combined for about 20 yards. What's the key to keeping them down?
Staying on top of those guys. That's the biggest key. Again, credit to Gus and the defense, you know, for not allowing the big explosives to those guys, because those guys are explosive as they get. So great job by our defense today.
Having Anthony back, how much did that help the running game?
Yeah, it definitely helps. Obviously, you got some of the QB run stuff that helped, and then obviously some of the scrambles. Picked up a 3rd down there early in the game on a scramble. But yeah, he creates some big plays with his feet.
You took a couple shots, but not as many as I'm sure you would like to. Were they just not giving them to you today?
Yeah, there's a few. I mean, we tried to hit him on the gadget play, and they covered it. And he did a great job of finding Trey on the sideline. There's a couple other ones. We had some 3rd down ones. You know, they stayed on top, and then some of those we got pressured on. But yeah, we're always going to be hunting those things for sure.
I know you're not super happy with how the offense played, but 2nd straight week you gritted out a win. How much confidence does that give you in this locker room, knowing that you guys can win?
No, it's big. I mean, shoot, at the end of the day, yeah, we got to play better. I got to coach better on offense and help the guys out. But finding ways to win in this league, that's what all that matters, is you win the game. We talk about keys to victory, and I say it every Wednesday morning. Our number one key to victory is to win the football game, no matter how we do that. Because at the end of the day, you look back at the end of the season and you say, oh, we won the game. You know, whatever, 16-10, you found a way to win. That's what was most important.
Coach Matt Gay.
Break out the slide for a few moves. He also took some hits. How do you think he just managed it with a tricky balance between being competitive but also being safe?
Yeah, no, he did a good job with it today. He really did. Found a way to get down when he needed to get down and not take the huge hit. Obviously got hit on a few of them, but I thought he did a good job managing and protecting himself today for sure.
Matt Gay for a couple field goals today. I know it's been a grind for him early in the year. Got to be rewarding to see.
Yeah, no, it was big. Obviously, we needed those field goals today. It was a low-scoring game. Credit to him. Obviously, our field goal, unit protecting there. So it was big.
Is this a game where just the little things really stand out? A tackle on a kickoff return, forcing them to call timeout, just in a game this close?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you play smart football. More games are lost than won in this league off mistakes. And at the end of the day, you want to play smart football, penalty-free, turnover-free. You look around the league, that's what it comes down to a lot of times is playing smart. So I was excited for the guys today.
Tyler Goodson?
Explosiveness. I mean, he's running good right now. I thought Trey did a heck of a job, too, on that drive. Both those guys stepping up in JT's absence has been big for us. So I think Trey did a real nice job on that one drive. I know you asked about Goodson, but that one drive we needed to run it there, and he was bouncing runs, and the O-line was blocking well for him. It was big.
You think this was part of the process with AR, just getting reps and playing?
Got to keep playing, man. I got to do a better job putting him in position.
That final scoring drive of the game, how important was it to get just one more score rather than just trying to kill as much clock as you
it was big. We'd love to score a touchdown there in that situation, but to get the field goal to go up 6, to make them have to go down and score a touchdown was huge for us.
That was Indianapolis head coach Shane Steichen talking about the Colts and their win against the Miami Dolphins. Taking a lot of blame, as he's the head coach. He's the captain of this whole operation. And so when things don't go right, then he is going to take the blame, and Steichen has consistently done this. It doesn't matter if the quarterback's under fire, Steichen takes the blame. Doesn't matter if the defense is under fire, Steichen takes the blame. And that's just kind of the head coach's responsibilities, and Steichen wears those responsibilities quite well. Now let's talk about Anthony Richardson. 10 of 24, that's 41% for 129 yards, no touchdowns, didn't have the big interception, which at one point when the Colts got the ball back, I said to myself, oh boy, he's going to uncork an interception, and that's going to turn this game, back into the Dolphins' favor. To his credit, he didn't do that. He slid a couple of times to the crowd's delight. Also got booed a little bit when the Colts had some 3-and-outs, and I can probably understand that because it is frustrating to kind of see your quarterback come out and not make what appears to be routine throws. But he also did some good things. Broke some tackles, got out of some sacks. I mean, there were a couple of sacks in this game, or a couple plays in this game, where if Joe Flacco is in there, it's just a sack, because Flacco's not going to be able to be big and strong and fast enough to evade the pressure. And Richardson is able to do that. Now, the other part of it is, would we like to see him hit a little drag route for 5 or 6 yards when you need to pick up 4 or 5 yards on third down? Yeah, I'd like to see that. And in that situation, Flacco probably does complete that pass. But, we're just gonna have to kind of live with it, man, because the Colts chose Anthony Richardson, number 4 overall in the NFL draft. They still won this game this week, even though it was ugly. Last week's game was ugly, and Flacco was the quarterback. So you tell me which of these guys is better. I can tell you that, Flacco throws a nice downfield ball and can also hit those intermediary routes that Richardson just, for whatever reason right now, cannot hit. Richardson makes plays with his feet that Joe Flacco simply cannot do. And we saw that run game for the Colts from Goodson. Like, it wasn't the Jonathan Taylor version of the running game that we have seen over the years from the Colts. But it was a much better run game than what we saw last week from Indianapolis. And that's because Anthony Richardson's in there. And it makes a complete difference for the Colts as to what they can do, how effective their running backs are, and what the defense has to worry about when the offense for the Colts is out on the field. So, you've got your pluses and your minuses for the Colts, and it's sort of a pick your poison as far as the quarterbacks go. Again, his impact was in eluding pressure and getting some runs in this game. He had 14 carries for 56 yards, had 22 on a scramble. I mentioned the nice pass he threw to Michael Pittman Jr. before halftime. He hit Pittman on another nice pass later in the game. Almost had a couple really nice ones to Alec Pierce. One was that sideline shot before halftime, and it just kind of went right through Pierce's hands. Maybe there needs to be a little bit more touch on the ball, or maybe Pierce should just be able to catch that one. And then Richardson had another nice one near the goal. What would have been near the goal line would have been out of bounds near the one where Alec Pierce kind of he'd been interfered with, and he got a little bit loose and just kind of toe tapped one at the sideline. 2 flags on that play. One was for defensive pass interference, but the other one went against Braden Smith for an illegal formation, I think was the call, and so that those flags canceled each other out. But that would have been a big play. That was one where Richardson kind of eluded some pressure, and there was a little bit of ad-libbing going, and then he found Pierce on what would have been a nice long gain. But you had penalties, and Braden Smith did not have a great game. I think he had 3 pre-snap penalties this week, and a couple of them were not lining up at the line of scrimmage, and that's been a point of emphasis for the league this year. And it feels like we have seen Braden Smith get called for that a few times this season, and that's just kind of the way it goes this year. But I want to really focus on Richardson, because no matter what happens with the Colts this year, the only thing that matters for Indianapolis is the development of Anthony Richardson. They came away with the win this week. It wasn't pretty. The offense was not good. It was inefficient. But they got enough efficiency from the run game And despite the fumble in the red zone from Richardson, the Colts were able to take care of the ball for the most part. We didn't get a lot of passes that were kind of thrown into jeopardy, although there were a couple. One, a different one on the sideline to Alec Pierce. He tried to hit him on a long shot, and I just don't think there was much there. And then, so it was not a banner day, but they won. And that is the most important impact of any of this, is that the Colts, a team that started off with a couple of really tough losses at the beginning of the season, have now won, they have won 4 of their last 5 games and are starting, you're hoping that they can get some momentum, but they do have a tough stretch, and it starts with Houston next week. Let's hear from quarterback Anthony Richardson.
Hello.
First of all, it's been like 3 weeks since you did this, so just what was the relief of just being back out there today, even though I'm sure you wanted to go more smooth?
I felt good just being back out there on the field with the guys, executing some of the plays, just having fun, just balling out. It felt good overall.
How difficult were their blitz packages? It seemed like they were sending a bunch of different stuff for you guys.
Whatever they did a great job. They were dialing it up. We were trying to adjust to it, but they just kept bringing it. We tried to execute some of our plays that we had dialed up earlier in the week, but they just did a great job, and we just can't really adjust.
We have games where you guys come in and say, we got the look we wanted. Was this one of the games where, you guys kept calling a play and thinking you were going to get a certain look, and it wasn't that?
I mean, a little bit. They were pretty much throwing every coverage at us, bringing a lot of pressure. Some of the times we did get the looks we were wanting, but they were bringing the pressure. And then some of the times we would call a certain play, and they would go into something else. But you just got to make it work at that point.
When the crowd is booing and they're kind of upset with how the offense is going, how do you drown that out and obviously try to get a win?
I don't really try to pay attention to it, honestly. I heard them booing, but I didn't know who they were booing. It's just football. The supporters in it. We know we got to execute, but you got to give them credit too. They dialed it up and did a great job.
The second half, obviously you kind of took it upon yourself as a runner. I don't know, how much do you think that contributed to you guys getting this outcome?
I think it did a great job. My arm and my legs are a great part of this offense. Shane dialed up the plays where I could get going. The O-line blocked, the certain plays where I could, hit certain holes. So, I feel like just me being in the offense and just providing what I can provide, I think that also helped.
There's all these questions about durability, but that's why you're here, though, right? Would you agree? You're here because you are a dual threat quarterback.
Yeah, for sure. I'm here because I'm me. I think I'm one of one, honestly. Not many people can do what I do. And a lot of people understand that. So it's just a matter of just knowing when to do certain things and when just to get down. So.
It's still a process for you. You slid a couple times. Some of the times you're kind of looking for context. But how do you balance all that right now?
I don't know, man. It's just football. Sometimes if I see 2 or 3 more defenders coming, I just try to get down. If I feel like I can, get some more space, and if it's one-on-one, I try to take advantage of it. But it's just football. I'm just out there just running around playing.
The fact that you were able to finish the game healthy and get a win, what does that do to your confidence moving for the rest of the season?
It doesn't really do much for my confidence. We were expected to come into this game, winning. That was our whole, mindset. Staying healthy, that was also another thing on my mind. Just taking advantage of the opportunities and just being on the field. That's what we were thinking about all week. So it doesn't really boost my confidence much. It just makes me feel good to let me know that we got the W as a team.
Anthony, when the offense was struggling to find a little consistency, defense got that takeaway that led to the touchdown. How big was that play on the other side of the ball to give you guys a boost?
For sure, we know we got to play as one. And our defense did a great job today stepping up and just making some plays for us and put us in a great position and opportunity. And when they did that, got the turnover, we knew we had to score. And I was telling the guys, this is the one we got to score right here. So we just try to take advantage of it.
When you're pointing for first downs after runs, is that natural to you playing this stuff out? Because I was like, what is going on? I haven't seen that emotion from you in games.
They're throwing flags on some of the first down celebrations. So throughout the week, I was thinking about what I was going to do. Talking to one of my friends about certain celebrations, and that one was just hitting me the most. So just trying to get the energy going in the stadium and just have fun out there.
6 passes. Sometimes when you get some success with the run, does that help you
calm down a little bit, maybe be a little bit better passer?
I don't think it helps me calm down. I think it just opens up the routes more. Just getting the run game involved. I feel like it just opens up the offense a little bit more for us because the defense has to play both sides of the ball, running and passing. So just our run game just helps out our passing game.
You talk a lot about you need to be in these games to finish these games, but like you literally finished it too, making those plays and getting points. How does it feel to do that? How does it feel to kind of be out there in the fourth and to be a part of the reason why you can win these games?
It feels good when my team has the trust in me, just to go out there and make plays and just do what I do. They told me on the sideline, just keep being me, just keep doing what I'm doing. Despite us, struggling a little bit in the first half and a little bit in the second, they still trusted me. Shane trusted me with the play calls and just to make some plays. So, it feels good just having the trust and the support from the guys, and it just allows me to go out there and play free.
Did you feel rusty at all? Just haven't played a couple weeks?
Not necessarily, because I've been out there practicing, moving around, going through my routine and stuff. So not really much rust. It was just more so just getting back in the groove and just finding the rhythm.
That was Anthony Richardson talking about the Colts and their win against the Miami Dolphins this week at Lucas Oil Stadium. A couple other things that he said there. He tried to protect himself, so we did see him slide a couple of times. First time he did it, I heard it on the broadcast, big pop from the crowd, appreciating the fact that he wasn't sacrificing his body unnecessarily. He took some other shots during the game because that's the way he plays, but I thought overall he did a pretty good job of avoiding unnecessary contact, and that's what you want to see. He also, very clear, he heard some boo birds out there, and I talked about that a little bit. I can understand when you're going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out against a team that is not very good, and you're just kind of letting them hang around. That can get frustrating for a fan base. But, this was not a good Miami team. It's a much different offense out there when you don't have Tua Tagovailoa out there for the Dolphins. And like I said, the Colts were not dominant in pass rushing, but they did get some sacks this week. So that does mean free McNuggets for everybody. That'll make some of my coworkers extremely happy. But Jalen Carlisle's got his first sack of the season, the first of his NFL career. And then the Colts immediately gave up a touchdown afterwards, which is too bad. Alaiatu Latu got his second career sack. He made a nice individual move. They kind of blocked him one-on-one with a guy. He made an inside move on him and got to Tyler Huntley. And then another key that really was a big part of this game for me, and I had not seen this a ton. I talked about Gus Bradley bringing some blitzes, and they hadn't been too effective, it didn't feel like. They tried to bring pressure from their linebackers, and it's really not the strength of our linebackers game, or at least, of this particular linebacking core. It's not to their strength anyway. They're just not getting home. So one thing that has worked for the Colts in the past is to dial up somebody off the edge, whether it's Nick Cross or whether it's Kenny Moore, and, picking, you don't do it all the time, but you pick a certain play and you come off that edge and you hope that you catch the Dolphins, off guard. And they did exactly that on a key play where Kenny Moore came off the edge and he got Tyler Huntley. Huntley tried to get away from him, and he didn't get the sack. Huntley threw the ball away. But because of the way he tried to elude the sack, he kind of put himself in danger, and he banged up his shoulder. It looked like he banged up his shoulder, and then he didn't come back into the game, so Tim Boyle had to finish things out for the Dolphins. So that's the kind of day it was for the Dolphins. And, the Colts could have easily lost this game, but they didn't. And I think that's important, is that while things were not great this week from, the point of, boy, you could have beaten them by 3 touchdowns, because I did think the Colts would score at least 20 points this week. And they didn't. They didn't even really come close to that with the 3 field goals and the touchdown. But the long and short of it is they got the win, and they needed the win, and they found a way to do it. And that's what you have to take away from it. They've got a really tough stretch up ahead with key games against Houston, and a key game against Houston that is coming up, and that's a road game. And then after that, they're at Minnesota. The Vikings did lose their first game of the year this past week. Then they're at home against Buffalo. Then they're on the road in their Sunday night game against the Jets. So, and then it's Detroit at home. And that is tough. That's Houston, Minnesota, Buffalo, New York, the Jets, and Detroit, and those are all almost playoff teams except for the Jets right now. And they've added some pieces, and they're hoping to be better than they were against the Steelers on Sunday Night Football. But so anyway, at 4-3, the Colts will go up against 5-2 Houston next week, NRG Stadium. It's a 1 p.m. game on CBS 4 here in the Indianapolis area, and it's a big one for the Colts. If they can find a way to beat Houston, then they'll be in a divisional tie for the AFC South. And I'm not sure this is a place that we saw the Colts being in, because Houston had been playing exceedingly well. C.J. Stroud had an awful game against the Packers. I'm sure he's looking forward to coming up against the Colts offense that he's had some success with and going back at it. For the Colts, they're hoping that they can get Jonathan Taylor back and healthy, because that is, if they can have him against the Texans, be a huge lift. And then we'll have to see what DeForest Buckner, how his health is too, whether he's able to return, even if it's a limited capacity where they have him on kind of a pitch count where they manage how much he plays. It would be great to have him in there. So we'll have a full preview of that with Dave and Mike this week on the Colts Blue Zone podcast when we do our game preview show. That'll be later in the week. For now, I'm Matt Adams. The final score is 16-10, the Indianapolis Colts. This has been the Colts Blue Zone podcast.